for English language, culture and communication. For subtitles, press the subtitle button on your remote control or device. These are both boa constrictors, which are large, non-venomous snakes found in tropical regions, or rather, even boa imperator. And this color variant is called sunglow. Interestingly, both are called sunglow. Sunglow is a hypo or salmon boa with albino. The significant difference is that with albino, there are T plus and T minus. This one in my left hand is T plus albino, and this one in my right hand is T minus albino. These T plus and T minus albinos look completely different, and accordingly, these sunglows also look different. They both have that wonderful red in them, which mainly comes from the salmon or from the hypo, especially when you look at the tails. Both have really red-orange tails, but simply by carefully following, so they tend to stay a bit more still. The overall impression is, of course, completely different. The T albino is almost white or a yellowish white, and the T albino has more of this cream color. With royal pythons, they also refer to T albinos as caramel albinos, so maybe more like this caramel color or this cream color. We learned a little something with our intro animals. So as I said, one is Sunglow T plus and the other is Sunglow T. I find them both beautiful, and that's why my intro animals for you today. Today's topic is quite different. It's about lizards, or rather, it's about a lizard. It's not about this one here. I just have it symbolically in my hand. This is a black tegu. It's about black tegus, but about a very specific one. As the title suggests, it's about the tegu that flew off the roof. The background to this is, I need to reflect for a moment. Robin from Austria sent me pictures and an interesting story about a tegu. First of all, I don't want this film to serve to judge Robin or to ask how could this happen and what do I know. Let's just leave that aside. I think it's not Robin's fault that this happened and that Theo flew off the roof. To be precise, he fell from the rooftop terrace of the 6th floor. As I said, he didn't describe exactly how this situation occurred. I just assumed that Robin was not negligent or grossly negligent, but that it was simply a totally stupid accident that happened. In today's episode, I would like to show and tell you a bit more about it. Robin also sent pictures and a video, and I found it so interesting that I thought I would show it to you as the Reptil TV community in today's episode. The picture is about this beautiful black Teju, Salvatore Merini. Robin would have liked us to maybe film it with him. He lives in the far corner of Austria, which was a bit far for me to drive. I believe we can do and show this quite well here in the studio. Here you see another picture of the animal, how beautifully it lies there, the girl in a transport box. As mentioned before, a really stupid accident happened. Theo fell from the 6th floor rooftop terrace and of course was seriously injured. An astonishing phenomenon about it, I find, is that such an animal can survive. From the 6th floor, that's about 20 meters high from where it fell. Surviving all of that shows how robust such a lizard can be or must be, and it injured or broke its spine in the process. We can see that quite well in this picture. Or rather, here you can already see how it is splintered. In the area that is circled, I think was probably the fracture. Here we also see another picture where you can see the splint. I am not a veterinarian, but I would say the thigh also does not look good to me. When you look at the right side, it looks broken. Here is another circle, perhaps the second broken spot of the animal. Additionally, regarding this spinal fracture, he also broke his jaw. The picture we are seeing now was taken a bit later, where it had partially healed but was still crooked. One of the lower jaws, I would say, sits relatively normally, and the other is tilted so it is not parallel to the upper jaw as it should be. Here is another X-ray image where we see the spine again. In this case, it is already splintered. The animal was treated at the University of Vienna. The veterinarian splintered the fracture in the spine with a wire, and we can see that quite well in this picture. Here is another view from above. We see both in the image. If you look below, you can see the wire on the spine, and you can see above at the jaw that one jaw is tilted, so it is not parallel as it should be. That's the medical background. The University of Vienna treated the animal, and a veterinarian made an effort to save the animal, keep it alive, and provide it with a somewhat decent life. And I think that has been somewhat successful. The hind leg's mobility is severely restricted, according to the veterinarian, by 80%. When you see it in the video how he walks, you might think it is almost 100% restricted, but he can probably still move them a little. We see here a second video while feeding. I think if it looks like this, he must also annoy the poor animal while eating. I believe it is also important that Theo, despite his disability, does not just lie there lazily and have food placed in front of him, but that he remains more or less active in hunting. That's why Robin also delays it, so he has to move and chase after his food. The Teju, or rather the female Teju, she is probably called Rexy, has also received company. Robin writes that there have been no problems with the companionship so far, especially since Sophia has joined as a young animal. There are no disputes, so he has added a second female to the Teju female, and so he has added a completely healthy or non-disabled female Teju to the mix, so at least they are now two. One might think everything is good, everything is great, but it's not quite perfect. What causes problems for Theo due to this accident is simply that the digestion works relatively well, but the defecation and urination do not function properly. This is sometimes seen in animals that have a broken spine. We once had a green iguana with a broken spine, and it had a similar problem. It could not defecate on its own. One had to help, had to massage during defecation. And it seems to be the case here as well. The veterinarian described it that way because the vertebra that was broken is the one through which the nerves branch out to the legs and the intestinal tract. Well, I think regardless of which vertebra it is, if it is in the lower lumbar region, if the spine is broken there and the nerves are interrupted, then the hind legs are paralyzed, and also the function that is referred to as the sphincter in humans is disturbed. This means Robin always has to assist, has to massage the animal, has to help with defecation so that it can pass stool, or similarly with urination. He also writes that since then, he makes sure to give a lot of vegetables and fruits, as well as fish, chicken, or beef fillet, only in small pieces and with some distance in between. He tries to feed easily digestible food and things that produce relatively thin stools. That certainly makes sense. Baby food, fruit yogurt, infant formula, he writes. That would be quite good in this case. He continues, when lifting her, we always use a towel as a support since she is incontinent, although it has improved to the extent that she starts to become restless because she doesn't want to urinate on us. I have read relatively little from Robin. He has written everything in an incredibly nice and sympathetic way about how he cares for the animal and how he is happy that the animal is still alive. And He writes, for example, that he feels a certain gratitude from Rexy for taking care of her. She is also extremely tame and lets everything be done to her without snapping. Of course, I think such a terrarium animal or a lizard that is cared for so much will become extremely trusting. The black Tejas are generally quite tame anyway, but if I handle them and always have to help with defecation and so on, or if I feed them more or less by hand, then they will naturally become even tamer. That's the story of the Teju who fell from the roof. Oh, now I see here, looking at my tablet, that Rexy even receives acupuncture, as you can see in the pictures. I assume this is also meant to help improve the nerve connection to the hind legs or for defecation. She receives regular acupuncture, even at the university clinic. In Vienna, she is treated with acupuncture. I don't know how many lizards in Europe receive acupuncture, but it shows that Robin is really taking care of her intensively. This must certainly cost a lot of money, and he seems to spare no effort or expense to do this. Something completely different here on Reptil TV. I am curious about your reaction, what you have to say about it. Say it's a silly story, or I believe we shouldn't blame Robin for the animal falling. We all know that this should not happen and should not have happened, but accidents happen. They happen to us humans. People fall off mountains because they are not careful. Such things can also happen in the animal kingdom. I think it's important that Robin takes care of her again and has her treated, as he spares no expense or effort. I think that's great. As I said, I'm curious about your reaction. Thumbs up if you found it interesting. Leave your comments below about what you think. Subscribe to the channel, and you'll hear stories like this from time to time. And otherwise, stay loyal to me and check out the Tejus. Whether healthy or slightly disabled, they are great animals.